While returns in parts of the primary sector have improved, there's still a real sense of uncertainty running through rural New Zealand, from fuel supply and input volatility to global trade instability, and now the closing of major vegetable processing plants like Watties and McCains. To open our first show, we've invited the Honourable Nicola Grigg. She's the Associate Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of State and Trade and Investment, to look at what the uncertainty means for farmers and growers and whether New Zealand is doing enough to protect its productive base. Welcome to the show, Nicola. It's great to have you on our first show.
Thanks, Andy. Congratulations to you both. This is a real milestone. Good on you.
Absolutely. We really do appreciate you being here with us. Minister, before we get into the wider rural economy, what's the latest on the fuel supplies for New Zealand? Can farmers and growers be confident that our ag fuel supplies will be guaranteed through the coming weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, you would have seen the Finance Minister announce our four-step system on Friday. We're at step one at the moment. Step one and step two are created entirely so that we don't need to graduate to step three, step four, or level three, level four. There is more than enough fuel in this country to service our needs. And as she keeps saying, there's enough fuel on boats to service our needs for, about 40 days or so. The Prime Minister, I'm sure you will have seen, is busy on the phones, ringing around our like-minded partners, our trade partners, particularly around the Southeast Asia. You would have seen he's had conversations with the likes of Malaysia, South Korea, looking for other options should we need it. But, agriculture can rest assured there is more than enough fuel supply in this country for our needs for this season at least, and going through into winter. And, it's just a case of keeping on, keep doing what you'd ordinarily do. Don't hoard, don't spike the demand, because, there is enough to go around. So farmers and growers can rest assured we'll be fine.
Nicola, I was listening into your Honourable Leader, Christopher Luxon, this morning, a nice tagline of timely, targeted and temporary is the approach to the plan. There is, as you said, a stepped approach that is following a little bit of a COVID framework. Does that mean that agriculture will be seen as an essential service when it comes to any provisioning of diesel?
Without going above my station in life and making that announcement, I think agriculture can safely assume it will always be considered an essential industry in this country.
Wonderful. So we'll see some developments of that, I'm sure, Andy, over the next week.
Yeah, we've had comments, though, regarding some supplies in some areas and some supply being limited to some farmers and struggling to make sure they've got enough product. And is that just a distribution issue?
Yes, I actually had a meeting with Ray Smith, the Director General of MPI, last week when I was up in Wellington. I'm heading up again later this afternoon for another sitting week. So the MPI is keeping that ministerial task force updated by the day. And as I can't reiterate enough, there is more than enough supply coming into the country. But yes, there has been incidences where demand has spiked and some tanks have been emptied. We've probably all seen that story of the stop transport truck that went to two stations and found them both dry. They are quite rural, isolated issues that, again, as I keep saying, if normal behaviour continues, then normal fuel supply will be able to continue as well. But yeah, there's certainly around the South Island, there are really, really inland areas that are hard to access that once they get run dry, they do take a bit longer to refuel.
It's interesting, Nicola, because in Methven, the rural contractors are going full steam and they are draining and stockpiling at the moment as well. So as isolated as it is, it's happening in all of those, particularly the time of year. I want to ask you, we've got Walt Cavendish on the show tomorrow, and he's driving a real campaign about cheap imported food. This Watties and McCains story is actually quite huge. What do you believe the government could be doing to help support some food security around some of those things for our vegetable growers?
Yeah, it is a big story, and look, I really do feel for the workers, the staffers, the factory staffers, the growers. Everybody has been hit really hard by this double whammy of an announcement. Not just McCain's, but obviously also Watties, sitting here in my part of the world. What I would say is, it does seem Watties flagged this with growers for some time. I had farmers, growers coming up to me at the Leaston show 2 years ago saying that their pea contracts, as an example, were being cut. So I think the growing side of the sector probably saw this coming, though, obviously no one wanted it to actually happen. And yes, there is the ongoing discussion around, cheap imports. And you have the same discussion, whether it is fruit and vegetable product, whether it is grains and cereals, whether it is stock feed. We all know the arable industry is having a really, really tough time at the moment. By and large, dairy farms aren't buying New Zealand made, they're buying imported product because it's cheaper. It's a really difficult conundrum, and I understand that. We have trade arrangements with countries, our produce for their produce, and sometimes people do get directly impacted by that relationship. But look, what I would say of the sector, they're represented by really, really strong, organised peak bodies. And I'll use Horticulture as an example. They've put together their election manifesto. I had a conversation late last week with Kate Scott, their CE. They've got some really good ideas that they, are provoking the government with and challenging the government with, and quite rightly so. One of the ideas being, is there the opportunity to mandate for supermarkets to publish their margin like banks must? And I think, again, I'm not making the decision on it, but I think that's worth having the conversation, because if we can help to drive down costs for consumers, improve profit margins for growers, then I think we have a win-win situation happening there.
Nicola, I can't believe I'm even asking this next question, because we live in a country where we can produce food and we export it to 40 million people around the world, or parts of their diet. But is there a possibility then that we could run into a problem where even food security in New Zealand is a problem, particularly if we're relying on imports for some of these vegetables? I mean, once farmers move out of a production system, it's very hard to ramp it back up again.
It is. I mean, I would like to think hell will freeze over the day we have a food security problem in this country. But if a government and a society get the system settings and the structures all wrong, then the reality is that could happen. But we as a government are working really, really hard to ensure those system settings are right. And that's what we campaigned on, and I believe that's what we got elected on when we came in 2023. The vast bulk of our work was to free up the regulatory environment for our productive setting of our productive systems, whether you're talking about manufacturing or whether you're talking about agriculture. That was the mandate I believe we were elected on, is to improve the profitability and the productivity of those kind of sectors, because we all know this country's economy has historically, and I think will for a very long time in the future, rely on agriculture. And so we as a government have got to get those settings right.
Nicola, thank you so very much. It's wonderful to have you on our very first show, particularly in the fact that you are in our backyard, and we are bringing rural media to the leading area in the country, Canterbury, as Hosking said this morning. Christchurch is leading the way. So it's really awesome to have you a part of our show, and I know next time we'll have you in the studio.
I'd love to. And look, congratulations to you guys for doing what you do to advocate for and provoke and drive what's happening across rural New Zealand. It's so important. There's such a good story to tell, and we need great ambassadors like you guys. So keep it up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicola.
Countrywide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam Lapp.